Hey, there we go. So I just want to say, hey, thank you for coming to Bedtime Book Club. And today we're going to be reading Think and Grow Rich. We're going to be reading it from the standpoint of chapter one, introduction. We're going to read the first part because it is 20 pages. I just want to say have a good morning because you're about to have one by the time I finish reading this. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen, shall we? Let's do that. All right. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Here we go. Introduction. The book is Think and Grow Rich. Can you see? Yeah, you can. Here we go. Whew. Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that. When they are mixed with the definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches and other material possessions and objects. A little more than 30 years ago, Edwin C. Barnes discovered how truly it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. It came about little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barnes' desires was that it was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. There we go. Observe carefully the descriptive of how he went about just translating his desire into reality, and you will have a better understanding of the 13 principles which led to these riches. When this desire or impulse of thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two difficulties stood in his way. He did not know Edison, and he did not have enough money to pay for his railroad fare to Orange, New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of men from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But his was no ordinary desire. His was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire that he finally began to travel by blind baggage rather than to be defeated. To the uninitiated, this means that he went to East Orange on a freight train. He presented himself at Mr. Edison's laboratory and announced that he had come into business with the inventor. He had come to go into business with the inventor. In speaking of the first meeting between Barnes and Edison, a year later, Edison said, "He stood there before me looking like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in his expression on his face which conveyed the expression that he was determined to get what he had come after. I had learned from years of experience with men that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. I gave him the opportunity he asked for because I saw he had made up his mind to stand by until he succeeded. Subsequently, events proved that no mistake had been made. Just when young Barnes said to Mr. Edison on that occasion was far less important than that which he thought. Edison himself said so. It could not be, it could not have been the young man's appearance which got him in start with the Edison's office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. Of the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it that there would be no need for the remainder of the book. Barnes did not get his apprenticeship with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work with Edison's office at a very nominal wage doing work that was unimportant to Edison, but most important to Barnes because it gave him an opportunity to display his merchandise where his intended partner could see it. Months went by. Apparently, nothing had brought or bring the coveted goal which Barnes had set up in his mind to his definite major purpose. But something important was happening in Barnes's mind. He was consistently intensifying his desire to become the business associate of Edison. Psychologists have correctly said that when it is truly ready for a thing, it puts it in its appearance. Barnes was ready for a business association with Edison. Moreover, he was determined to remain until he got that which was seeking. He did not say to himself, "Oh, well, what's the use? I guess I'll change my mind and go try for a salesman job." But he did say, "I came here to go into business with Edison, and I'll accomplish this if it takes the remainder of my life." He meant it. What a different story men would have to tell if they only would adopt a definite purpose and stand by that purpose until it had time to become an all consuming obsession. Maybe young Barnes did not know it at the time, but his bulldog determination, his persistence in standing back at the single desire, was destined to mow down all opposition and bring him to the opportunity he was seeking. When the opportunity came, it came in different form, and the form, direction, different than Barnes had expected. That is one of the tricks of the opportunity. It has a sly habit of slipping in by the back door, and often it comes disguised in the form of misfortune and temporary defeat. Perhaps this is why so many fail to recognize the opportunity. Mr. Edison had perfected a new office device known at the time that the Edison dictating machine, now known as the ectophone. His salesmen were not enthusiastic about the machine. They did not believe it could be sold without great effort. Barnes saw this as an opportunity. It had crawled in quietly and hidden in a queer looking machine, which interested no one but Barnes and the inventor. Barnes knew he could sell the Edison dictating machine. He suggested this to Edison and promptly got his chance. He did sell the machine. In fact, he sold it so successfully that Edison gave him a contract to dispute and market it all over the nation. Out of that business association grew the slogan made by Edison but installed by Barnes. The Business Alliance has been in operation for more than 30 years. Out of it, Barnes had made himself rich in money, but he had also done something infinitely greater. He was proved that one really may think and grow rich. How much actual cash that original desire of Barnes had been worth to him, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps it was brought to him or three perhaps it brought him $2 or $3 million, but the amount, whatever it is, becomes insignificant compared with the greater asset he acquired in the form of definite knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought can be transmuted into its physical counterpart by the application of a known principle. Barnes literally thought himself into a partnership with the great Edison. He thought himself into a fortune. He had nothing to start with except the capacity to know what he wanted and that determination to stand by what he wanted until he realized it. He had no money to begin with. He had but little education. He had no influence. But he did have the initiative, faith that and the will to win. With these intangible forces, he made himself number one man with the greatest inventor who ever lived. Now let us look at a different situation and study a man who has plenty of tangible evidence of riches, but lost it because he stood 3 feet short of the goal that he was seeking. 3 feet from gold. One of the most common failures is a habit of quitting when a person is overtaken by temporary defeat. Every person is guilty of this mistake at one time or another. An uncle of R.U. Darby was caught by the gold fever in the gold rush days and went west to dig and grow rich. He had never heard that more gold had ever been mined from the veins of men than has ever been taken from the earth. He staked a claim and went to work with a pick and a shovel. The going was hard, but his lust for gold was definite. After weeks of labor, he was rewarded by the discovery of the shining ore. He needed machinery to bring the ore to the surface. Quietly, he covered up the mine, retraced his footsteps to his home in Williamsburg, Maryland, and told his relatives and a few neighbors of the strike. They got together money for the needed machinery, had it shipped. The uncle and Darby went to work back on the mine. The first car of ore was mined and was shipped to a smelter. The returns proved that they had one of the richest mines in Colorado. A few more cars of ore would clear that debt. Then would come the big killing and profits. Down went the drills, up went the hopes of Darby and Uncle. Then something happened. The vein of ore disappeared. They had come to an end of the rainbow, and the pot of gold was no longer there. They drilled on desperately, trying to pick up the vein again to no avail. Finally, they decided to quit. They sold the machinery to a junkman for a few $100 and then took the train back home. Some junk men are dumb, but not this one. He called in a mining engineer to look at the mine and to do a little calculating. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. His calculations showed that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. That's exactly where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he knew enough to seek expert counsel before giving up. Most of the money which went into the machinery was procured through the efforts of R.D. Darby, who was a very young man. The money came from his relatives and neighbors because of their faith in him. He paid it back every dollar of it, although he was years in doing so. Long after, Mr. Darby recouped his losses many times over when he made the discovery that desire can be transmuted into gold. The discovery came when he went into business of selling life insurance. Remembering what he had lost and lost that huge fortune because he stopped 3 feet from gold, Darby profited from the experience in his chosen work by a simple method of saying to himself, I stopped 3 feet from gold, but I will never stop because men say no when I ask them to buy insurance. Darby is one of a small group of fewer men than 50 who sold more than $1 million in life insurance annually. He owes his stickability to the lesson he learned from his quitability in the gold mining business. Before success comes to any man's life, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. When defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and most logical thing to do is quit. That is exactly what the majority of men do. More than 500 of the most successful men in this country has ever known told the Altar that their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes a great delight in tripping one when success is almost within reach. A 50-cent lesson in perseverance. Shortly after Mr. Darby received his degree at the University of Hard Knocks and had decided to profit by his experience in the gold mining business, he had the good fortune to be present on an occasion that proved to him that no does not necessarily mean no. One afternoon, he was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old fashioned mill. The uncle operated a large farm on which a number of colored sharecrop farmers lived. Quietly, the door opened, and a small colored child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up and saw the child and barked at her roughly, What do you want? Meekly the child replied, my mammy say, my mammy say send her 50 cents. I'll not do it, the uncle retorted. Now you run on home. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I guess. Yes, sir, the child replied, but she did not move. The uncle went ahead with his work, so busily engaged that he did not pay attention to the child to observe that she did not leave. When he looked up and saw the child still standing there, he yelled at her and told her to go home. Now go home or I'll take a switch to you. The little girl said, Yes, sir, but she did not bulge an inch. The uncle dropped the sack of grain he was about to pour into the old mill hopper, picked up a barrel stave, and started towards the child with an expression on his face that indicated trouble. Darby held his breath. He was certain that he was about to witness a murder. He knew his uncle had a fierce temper, and he knew that colored children were not supposed to defy white people in that part of the country. When the uncle reached the spot where the child was standing, she quickly stepped forward one step, looked up into his eyes, and screamed at the top of her shrill voice, My mammy's got to have that 50 cents. The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, then slowly laid the barrel stave to the floor, put his hand in his pocket, took out $50, and gave it to the child. The child took the money and slowly backed towards the door, never taking her eyes off the man whom she had just conquered. After she had gone, the uncle sat down on a box and looked out the window into space for more than 10 minutes. He was pondering with awe over the whooping he had just taken. Mr. Darby, too, was doing some thinking. That that was the first time in all of his experience that he had seen a colored child deliberately master an adult white person. How did she do it? What happened to his uncle had caused him to lose his fierceness? What had happened to his uncle that caused him to lose his fierceness and become docile as a lamb? What strange power did this child use that made her master over her superior? These and other similar questions flashed into Darby's mind, but he did not find the answer until years later when he told me the story. Strangely, the story of this unusual experience was told to the author in the old mill on the very spot where the uncle took his whipping. Strangely, too, I had devoted nearly quarter of a century to the study of power, which enabled an ignorant, illiterate colored child to conquer an intelligent man. As we stood there in the musty old mill, Mr. Darby repeated the story of the unusual conquest and finished asking, "What can you make of it? What strange power did that child use that so completely whipped my uncle?" The answer to his question would be found in the principles described in this book. The answer is full and complete, and contains details and instructions sufficient to enable anyone to understand and apply the same force which the little child incidentally stumbled upon. Keep your mind alert, and you will observe exactly what strange power came to the rescue of the child, and you will catch a glimpse of this power in the next chapter. Somewhere in this book, you will find an idea that will quicken your receptive powers and place at your command for your own benefit this same irresistible power. The awareness of this power may come to you in the first chapter, or it may flash into your mind in sequential chapters. It may come to you in the form of a single idea, or it may come in the nature of a plan or a purpose. Again, it may cause you to go back into your past experiences of failure and defeat and begin and bring to the surface some lesson by which you regain all that you lost through defeat. After I described to Mr. Darby the power unwittingly used by the little colored girl, he quickly retraced his 30 years of experience as a life insurance salesman and frankly acknowledged that his success in that field was due in no small degree to the lesson he had learned from this child. Mr. Darby pointed out every time a prospect tried to bow me out without buying, I saw that child standing there in the old mill with her big eyes glaring in defiance, and I said to myself, I gotta make this sale. The better portion of all sales that I have made were made after people had said no. He recalled, too, his mistake of having stopped only 3 feet from gold, but, he said, that experience was a blessing in disguise. It taught me to keep on keeping on, no matter how hard the going may be, a lesson I needed to learn before I could succeed in anything. This story of Mr. Dalby and his uncle and the child and the gold mine doubtless will be read by hundreds of men who make their living by selling life insurance, and all of these, the author wishes to offer a suggestion that Darby owes these two experiences of his abilities to sell more than $1 million of life insurance every year. Let's see here. I think that's where I'm going to stop. Let me check something real quick. Nope, I'm going to keep going. Life is strange and often imponderable. Both the successes and the failures have their roots in a simple experience. Mr. Dalby's experience were commonplace and simple enough, yet they held an answer to his destiny in life. Therefore, they were as important to him as life itself. He profited by these two dramatic experiences because he had analyzed them and found the lesson that they taught. But what of the man who had neither time nor the inclination to study failure in such knowledge that he may lead to success? Where and how is he to learn the art of converting defeat into stepping stones to opportunity? In answer to these questions, this book was written. The answer called for a description of 13 principles, but remember as you read, the answer you may be seeking to the questions which you have caused yourself to ponder over in the strangest of life may be found in your own mind through some idea, plan, or purpose which may spring forth into your mind as you read. One sound idea of all that needs to achieve success. The principles described in this book contain the best and the most practical of all that is known concerning ways and means of creating useful ideas. Okay, that's where I will stop. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is today's chapter, or today's, I guess, section of Think and Grow Rich. Very good book. I hope you're enjoying yourself, and I hope you're getting something from this. Remember, I won't be going over details of my observations of the book. I'm going to let you get your own. But I do want to say, ladies and gentlemen, I was on a conference call today, and one of the things that the guy said, that he said that whenever someone is 4 months or more behind in their rent, in their mortgage, that they don't catch up, that they can't catch up. And right now, I'm actually learning how to do a lot of things in the real estate game. And so if you're in trouble and you need some help, I have some friends who would love to talk to you as far as helping you to maybe find a way out maybe getting you, before you get to the point where you have to go into bankruptcy. You could do a short sale, you could do owner financing. There's different options, but I don't want you to suffer. Obviously, I don't like that, but don't stay there and be oblivious, and also don't stay there and just suffer. There's a chance for you to take chances in your life right now, ladies and gentlemen, because there's things out there that can help you. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of people in fear mode. So don't stay in fear mode. Be great, because you are great, and there's something that's coming your way. Even if you lose your home, your life will continue because there's something coming your way. So stay blessed, and keep your heart going. There's a book you need to write. Go write that book. I got to write my book. There's a couple things I need to invent. There's some things I need to do. And all these ideas are fresh in my mind and ready to go. So take your time right now to do a little bit of soul searching, do a little bit of meditation. Say, what can I do right now? You might find your book is ready to be written. You got free time, might as well get up and do it, right? And that's all I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a blessed night, and have a good day. We'll talk tomorrow, and I will see you later. I believe and I love in each and every single one of you, and I will talk to you soon.